Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics, reaching you live from the nation's global headquarters in the Commercial Nerve Center and from our global headquarters here in Nigeria. I'm Jeffrey Ozongo. Coming up on the program. After a last-minute meeting ended in a deadlock, the Nigerian Labour Congress holds nationwide protest over rising cost of living and claims of federal government's failure to fulfill a 2023 agreement bordering on sundry welfare issues. Governor Hyacinth Alia sets up 2 commissions to probe the government of his predecessor, Samuel Ortom, from May the 29th, 2015 to May 2023. And President Bola Tinubu orders the implementation of the Steve Oronsaye report on restructuring and rationalizing federal government parastatals and agencies. We're live with development from across the polity, touching base with our correspondents who have been monitoring the nationwide protest by the Nigerian Labour Congress over economic hardship, high cost of living, and a push for government to fulfill a 2023 agreement between both parties. The 2-day protest, which kicked off today in major cities across the country, witnesses compliance by the NLC members from Abuja to Lagos, Kano, Port Harcourt, Benue, Enugu, Kaduna, among other states. A last-minute meeting just before midnight on Monday to broker a deal between organized labor and the federal government failed to yield any result. It ended in a deadlock. Although the Trade Union Congress pulled out of the protest, the Nigerian Labour Congress is going on with the agitation, which they had warned that it's a preparation for an indefinite strike if their demands are not met.
To do a protest today, to register before Nigerians the level of suffering, and we are calling it peaceful rally. You know, the meeting you saw, there was a meeting on Sunday till late, there was a meeting yesterday till late, all was aimed at saying, don't come out, but we're out. This protest is not about minimum wage. You have to understand it. This protest is about hunger. Both of those that are not working. The minimum wage, when will it be completed? When will it be implemented? What will be the minimum wage that will remove hunger? The UN said that the poorest man should be fed on $2 per day. That's the poorest. And if you have a family of 6 people, at $2 per day by 6 is $12. In a month, you have $360, which translates to about 700,000 naira. Is that the minimum wage you are talking of? Is that what will feed you? On feeding alone. I'm not talking on transportation and accommodation. So what are we saying? Medical. So what are we saying?
Now, all this is perhaps why the National Youth Council of Nigeria is asking President Bola Tinubu to implement economic policies that will lessen the hardship currently being experienced in the country. The council's president, Mr. Sukubo, at the conference asked state governors to take steps at addressing the rising cost of living, noting that many students are finding it difficult to feed themselves. He also appeals to the Nigerian youth not to embark on any protest or join any planned protests, as it is today, against the federal government. Let's shift base now. It's about 12 years in the works. And finally, the federal government, the Federal Executive Council, has approved the implementation of parts of the Oronsaye report to merge some parastatals, agencies, and commissions, while others will be subsumed, scrapped, or relocated. This, according to the special advisor to the President on Policy Coordination, Adiza Bala Usman, is in line with the need to reduce the cost of living, cost of governance, I should say, and streamline efficiency across the governance value chain.
It's the second Federal Executive Council meeting of the year. As usual, in attendance are ministers, some aides to the president, and other government officials. Almost 4 hours after the meeting commenced, it is time to outline the decisions taken. The major decision being the status of the Oronsaye Committee recommendations.
There is a landmark decision that was taken by the Federal Executive Council today. Recall that in 2012, the administration of former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan instituted the so-called Oronsaye report.
The report was not implemented that year. Another attempt by the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari in 2014 also failed.
And the aspects that are applicable to mergers, as I said, subsuming and scrapping.
This time, it has scaled the hurdle and is to be implemented.
Our administration has taken a very bold step towards implementation on aspects of the Oronsaye panel report, which speaks to mergers, subsuming, scrapping, and relocation of parastatals, agencies, and commissions of federal government. This is in line with the need to reduce cost of governance and ensure that we have streamlined efficiency across the governance value chain.
She then outlines some of the organizations affected.
For agencies that are required to be merged, I'll take it. National Agency for Control of AIDS, HIV/AIDS, NACA, to be merged with the Center for Disease Control in the Federal Ministry of Health. National Emergency Management Agency to be merged with the National Commission for Refugee Migration and Internally Displaced Persons. The Border Communities Development Agency to be subsumed to function as a department under the National Boundary Commission. The National Salaries, Income and Wages Commission to be subsumed into the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Allocation Commission. The National Blood Service Commission to be converted into an agency and relocated to the Federal Ministry of Health.
The team makes it clear that these changes will not lead to staff disengagement.
The fact that the Oronsaye report has been approved and adopted by Council today does not mean that people will lose their jobs. All those who are employed, whether they have been moved, subsumed, or scrapped, will find accommodation within relevant government agencies.
The committee has been given 12 weeks to ensure all legislative amendments and restructuring are implemented to make this a reality. Council has also outlined some guidelines for universities to abide by following their exit from the IPPIS. The universities have also been encouraged to do more in terms of research outputs, even as government promises to provide sufficient funding. From the Presidential Villa, Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
The Oronsaye Committee report is the basis for our conversation. I'm being joined by a senior advocate of Nigeria who is going to be exploring this particular subject matter. Mr. Kayode Adelola joins us via Zoom. Mr. Adelola, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much for having me again today.
Before we get to the nitty-gritty of that particular Oronsaye report, let's begin with what's happening across the country. The NLC protest over cost of living, high cost of living, economic hardship, as well as their claim of failure by the federal government to implement a 2023 agreement, about 15-point agreement. I needed your impression before we go on with the Oronsaye report.
Well, first of all, we must admit that under a democratic dispensation, people are allowed to protest. If they have reasons to demonstrate and protest, provided they do so within the ambit of the law, they should be encouraged. We all can't agree on everything. The Labour Congress has threatened over time to want protests, and they have said at different times that they need the populace to be comfortable. They don't want people to be hungry. But I think the Labour Congress also should have its think tank and occasionally force to government what their own proposals are. It's not only about wages. Wages will do something, but there are so many people who are not under the umbrella of the Nigerian Labour Congress, and as such, they may not even benefit from whatever the Labour Congress members say. But aside from that, I think government should listen to them, and if there has been an agreement in the last 10 or so years, the government should try and come to the realization of those points they had agreed upon. Otherwise, they should have a rethink and sit with the Labour Congress and explain to them why certain things cannot be done now or they have to be postponed. But otherwise, I think Labour Congress should be allowed to have a voice, and as I said, whether they're doing so within the ambit of the law.
Just before we leave this Labour matter, what do you make of this counter claims they're making? We had a conversation on another program of ours with a Labour leader, and we took him from one point to the very 15th point of that agreement, and we're telling him, tell us yes or no. And a couple of them, he said government has not implemented them. But we listened to the Honourable Minister for Information saying 80% has been implemented. What do you make of this different version of the same event?
I see, there we go again. It's about communication. Those of us who are not members of the Labour Congress and those of us who are not in government can only look at this playing out as though we're watching a ping pong game. But if decisions are taken and publicized, and we all know from one point to the other how these things are implemented, there will be no argument. If, for example, the Labour Congress says that out of the 15 points, only about 3 have been implemented, they should tell us which ones haven't been implemented. Government should show us evidence that those ones have been implemented. But you see, Labour Congress should not be seen as they versus us. Labour Congress represents the people. And while some of us may occasionally feel that, well, Labour Congress could also find other means, like the TUC chairman was saying, they must have a toolbox where they can take different tools at different times for different purposes. It shouldn't all be about agitation all the time. So they must let us know which ones haven't been implemented, and the government should tell us which ones have been implemented and demonstrate how they have. We need information. We need communication. That is very important, and that should form part of our system.
Let's now talk about the issue of the Oronsaye report, which is 12 years in the works. Different presidents. The presidency of Goodluck Jonathan actually set up that committee, and they got a white paper out of that committee. Implementation was not necessarily there. The former president also made an attempt, but it didn't follow through. And now President Bola Tinubu has decided to follow through with the implementation. So, first impression of this decision by government?
I think it's something to celebrate. Celebrate not because we think government has done anything like this mere nuclear science, but the fact that the government has come and has decided to implement the Oronsaye report is something to be happy about. But then again, are we talking about the Oronsaye report or the white paper that we had under Jonathan and another one under President Buhari? Because what is fine is when there's a white paper, a lot of the proposals by the Oronsaye Commission itself would have been taken away, and we may have a skeletal report. So if the president has actually said we should implement the Oronsaye report, I think that is welcome. What we're looking at is how that will translate into reduction in cost of governance and how we can have more accountability. That's one. Aside from that, I think the implementation of the Oronsaye report should give us an opportunity to rejig our system. Now, what I mean by that is, if you relate with public servants, you find that there is a lot of uncertainty about what goes on between you and the public office you're relating with. For example, if you apply for, say, a mining license, I think we should get to a point where you should be able to follow your application online and determine whether it's gone from room 203 to block B across the road and it's before the permanent secretary and before it goes to the minister or what have you, without necessarily having to traverse the corridors of the various ministries, agencies, or commissions. That's one thing I think we should do. We should seize this opportunity not only to merge or subsume agencies and commissions or parastatals, but also to, generally speaking, have a complete reorientation of members of the public service. Sometimes, quite frankly, you need to speak with members of the public who are related with these commissions or agencies, how frustrating it is sometimes for them. So we need to have this as an opportunity to look at all that. And then aside from that, when we implement the Oronsaye report, there must be periodic evaluation. Have we indeed saved money for governance, or have we simply taking the money from the right hand and simply put it in the left hand. We must not forget that we have three components here: the law, the politics, as well as the implementation of an administrative method of doing things. The politics is about the fact that we're going to have a lot of politicians, and I mean no disrespect to them, but the truth is we're going to have a lot of them trying to whisper to those who are going to implement the report and say, look, if you can, please save my agency. If you can, please mark my agency with an agency that we can work with. So we need to have people happy with the outcome at the end of the day. When we see that money has actually been saved and the money saved has actually been used for a different purpose, then people will be glad. And not only that.
All right.
Members of the public want communication.
Okay, let us look. I saw a report that said that about 241 billion will be saved when this is implemented and all of that. I don't know whether that actually moves the needle, but you mentioned something quite significant, which I want you to speak to strongly, as exactly in terms of specifics, what should be done. Because if you merge these ministries or agencies and parastatals, and it's the same individuals that will be running all of this, attitude has to change. So what specific attitude has to change to beat down the bureaucracy, because they are trying to streamline efficiency? And given what we know about public service, that's almost a tall order. So what drastically has to be done for us to walk into any ministry and work with these parastatals and agencies and say, okay, something has actually changed besides just changes in numbers and measures?
If you recall, I don't know if it still happens, but if you recall, there was a time we had a book which in the public service was called the GO, I think it was General Orders, something of the kind. And it was published. So every one of us could tell who was supposed to do what and who was supposed to do another. We need to have that. I need to be able to go to the Ministry of, whichever ministry is in charge, or the government publishers, and obtain a copy. And by that, I should be able to say that the officer in charge of a department in a ministry has the following responsibilities. In other words, when I get into a ministry, I shouldn't be asking, who am I supposed to see? I should be able to tell Mr. So-and-so that you are the one in charge of this department. These are your responsibilities. I sent a letter 1 month ago. I didn't get a response by email or whatever. These are the things we need to do. We should be able to call, to question, or to account members of the public service. It shouldn't be anything hidden. I should be able to say, well, I have signed an application for something, and on my laptop, I should be able to tell how far my file has moved. And if there is some bottleneck somewhere, I should be able to tell who is stopping my file from moving.
All right.
And not only that, I think this should also cascade to the state government. We should find a situation where you apply for a certificate of occupancy, and you can tell where it is, you can tell who is delaying, you can tell which department has done its job. And so we as members of the public should be able to evaluate these things and evaluate these officers and give commendation where it's due. But it's not enough to just merge and not merge thoughts of the people.
All right, let us say we are due for a break. I'm going to keep you for a bit just to take one more question, but we're due for a break. Some other question that has to do with this very report. We'll come back after this break. Join us again. Welcome back. We're still talking about the Stephen Oronsaye report that is now to be implemented within the next 12 weeks as directed by President Bola Tinubu. That report has been lying down there for 12 years. Other president has made attempt, but he's decided to go through with it. I have joined, who has been with me right on the program, Mr. Kayode Adelola, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Senior Advocate, thank you so much for staying with us on the program. Maybe this is a little departure because we don't have the luxury of time. Do you think in going forward with some of those reforms by the federal government, President Bola Tinubu should also look at reducing the number of ministries and ministers he has under his cabinet? Don't you think that's a conversation we should start having as well, since a lot is going on at the same time?
You know, a lot of people have been speaking to the issue about cost of governance. It's not only about number of ministers and number of ministries, but what we see government spending money on. People are not very happy to see long convoys of expensive cars. People are not glad to see that National Assembly also have spent so much money on cars and what have you. But so the truth is, if government really and truly gets down to business and manages or subsumes some of these agencies or parastatals and commissions, and we actually save money, it would be a good thing. But then again, as I said, we need to see, not only here, we need to see that the money saved is actually plowed into something very tangible, and people need to be happy. See, we have a Minister of Information, for example. We have people who are in charge of information and communication. They have a lot of work to do. We need to be put abreast of what is happening in government almost on a daily basis. There's a lot of mistrust. And unless you earn the trust of people again, we're going to have people simply sneering at Oronsaye reports and its implementation and simply hearing people say, oh, well, we've heard that before, and to what end? But we need to have government do things right and communicate with people as often as possible. That's very crucial. A lot of people want to be convinced that government is working in the interest of the people and not just doing things merely for bureaucracies.
Leonard Kamas, thank you so much for your insight. I wish we had more time to talk about the staff of government that are worried about their jobs. But we can put that vis-a-vis the issue of redeploying and then over-bloated system. It's a conversation that is ongoing. Thank you so much, Mr. Kayode Adeluola, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, joining us via Zoom here in Lagos. Thank you for coming on the program, sir.
Thank you.
Let's move on to other stories now. This time we're heading to Benue State, where Governor Hyacinth Alia has begun the probe of his predecessor, Mr. Samuel Ortom, by setting up 2 commissions of inquiries to look into the income and expenditure of the former government from May 29, 2015 to 2023, including contract awards, bailout funds, and Paris Club refunds. Inaugurating the Commission of Inquiries at the Old Banquet Hall, Mr. Alia asked the second Commission of Inquiry on Sales and Lease of Government Assets to investigate all agreement and sales or sales done that should change government interests and make appropriate recommendations on the way forward.
Commission's terms of reference. A, to identify the income of Benue State government from 29th May 2015 to 28th May 2023. B, to look into the expenditure and utilization of the Benue State income from 29th day of May 2015 to the 20th day of May 2023. C, identify all the Benue State bank accounts and examine the propriety or otherwise of the transactions in the accounts from 29th day of May 2015 to the 20th day of May 2023. D, to identify loans taken by Benue State government from 29 May 2015 to 20th May 2023 and ascertain the appropriateness of the utilization, interest charge on the loans, and the possible abuse thereof. E, to identify the loan given out by the Benue State government, the alleged waiver, and the possible abuses thereof. F, to identify the special interventions including, but not limited to, the bailout funds, Paris Club refunds received by the Benue State government from 29th May 2015 to 28th May 2023.
Away from that, a coalition of civil society organizations in Rivers State has dragged the Rivers State House of Assembly to court over the defection of the lawmakers from the PDP to the APC. The CSOs are asking the court to interpret Section 109 of the Constitution as to whether, after having defected from a political party that sponsored their election, the lawmakers should still retain their seats.
In Rivers State, I've just empowered 6 CSO groups in Rivers State to take the Rivers House of Assembly the governor and other parties to court, basically to demand that the court should declare the 27 embattled lawmakers their seats vacant. And we are saying this because they are defected from the party that sponsored them to power to another political party. We are here in court asking the court to interpret Section 1091G that have said that where you decamp to another political party, you automatically lose your seat. There are plethora of examples. We have that of Cross River State and that of Ebonyi State. We are very confident in the court that no matter the rumored intimidation, no matter the rumored threats that the court is going to agree with us, agree with our arguments. We are equally using this opportunity to warn the River State government not to dare, for political exigency, represent the budget before the former lawmakers or the embattled lawmakers, if you like.
And now to the unfortunate incident in Ochanja Market where a building housing several shops collapsed in Onitsha, the Anambra State. It is suspected that some traders are trapped in the rubble, but authorities are yet to confirm fatalities or the cause of the collapse. Governor Chukwuma Soludo is expected to visit this scene to ascertain the level of damage. Also in company of the governor will be officials of the Anambra State Physical Planning Board, and the material testing personnel will be there to find out exactly what happened. And that's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and, of course, your usual company. I'm Jeffrey Uzanga. You've been served on Lunchtime.